Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 92 of this awesome, amazing Osu Let's Play series. In the last episode, I talked about hard resets, basically when you are trying to rebuild a habit all the way from the ground up. I talked about when you might want to do that and how you should go about doing that as well. And in this episode, I want to talk about my thoughts on tournament strategy, my advice regarding it. There's, I think, a lot to it, and I have similar videos about tournaments sort of in general. And also over at OC University, we did a interview series on tournament strategy, so definitely check that out, linked in the description. But I want to give my own, I guess, personal experience with tournament strategy, and specifically, I'll use the latest OSU World Cup as an example since that just ended recently. So I will show you guys our team spreadsheet where we put all of our scores, and I'll talk about how we personally strategized in order to, I guess, have the best strategy that we could, right? So before I get into the actual video, I'd like to shout out as usual that I live stream every single day over at twitch.tv. So that will be linked in the description, but if you want to hang out with me or watch me play this game live or ask me questions, anything like that, please stop by, say hello. And also, bonus points if you tell me that you came from this Let's Play series. We'll be very happy to see you there. So yes, for the start of this episode, I will take you all through our team spreadsheet, which is going to take up the whole screen, but yes, this sheet has already been made public, by the way. That happened right after the grand finals match, which was a couple of days ago, last Sunday. So I guess three days ago, right? So yes, anyway, this is our sheet of scores from the grand finals match, and the the every time I look at this sheet, just Aries columns on some of the maps is okay. Anyway, it just catches my eye every time. Aries. Okay. Anyway, so the four columns here are obviously the four players, and then let me explain the template a little bit. Okay, so these are blank here. So the scores that you get will go in these four boxes down here, and then those numbers get averaged out to this box automatically. So actually, I can't show it on the screen, but yeah, there's a Google spreadsheet formula that averages out all of those scores. So this number, for example, is an average of these four scores down here, and then the green number next to it is your feeling number. So this is your actual score from practice, the actual scores, and then this feeling number shows around how well you think you will do in the match. Although I think, okay, I'll talk about different uses for those numbers and specifically how I personally use those numbers, because you can see this is my column and I pretty much only had fives and zeros. So I'll talk about my specific strategy for that. And then down here in the free mod section, we have a separate thingy to just put down which mod you were using on those scores and which mod you were most likely to end up playing in the actual match. So if you were to actually go in for that map in the match. So yes, so tournament strategy boils down to picking the maps that you are most likely to win and banning or avoiding the maps that you are most likely to lose. Should be pretty obvious. Hopefully I don't need to elaborate that much, but I will try to spend this episode, or at least this part of the episode, talking about who exactly you should put in for each individual map and like how you can leverage certain players doing well or not doing well on the day of the match and things like that. So before I do that, actually, I want to also mention, so some people have comments on their feeling box. So personally, I put comments of the gamma that I would use for each specific map. Actually, typically I wouldn't use gamma too often, but I was using it for this match to just sort of maximize the score and comfort that I had on reading each individual map. And then sometimes I would change my skin, so I'd have a little note here of like the skin name that I would want to use for that map. I think for the DTs, I have my DT skin noted for all these, although yeah, usually I don't really need to remind myself to switch to my DT skin when playing DT, but yeah, it's good to have it because sometimes I use my normal skin. But yes, anyway, so Some other uses of this comment function, by the way, and by the way, you do that just by right-clicking and then insert note, and then you can just type whatever comment you want, and then just click off of it, and then that comment will be there. So yes, that is that. So Fancy Lad, I will show, by the way, so or sort of explain what he did for his row, or, yeah, his column. So I think in previous rounds he was actually putting his practice scores. Like if I click the bottom down here, this is our quarterfinals tab. We have some very, very expressive comments sometimes, but yes, anyway, actual scores here, but then actually finals, he didn't put any of his practice scores, he only put feeling numbers. And then in grand finals, what he did is, if you mouse over one of these, so he just put one number, but it's not actually like the scores that he was getting in the map in practice, because some of these maps he played like 10, 20 times, right? But he would only put one score, and that was his average that he was getting. So for every map, he put best case scenario score and worst case scenario, and then average. So some of these maps, like this one, like best case scenario, I will get 800k, but on any average run, I will probably get 400k if I go in for this map. Because in tournaments, you're only playing a map once, right? So yes, that is that. And Fiery, for example, so he had notes for gamma sometimes, and then he also had notes for offset. So, and we actually had, if you look at the very right, we had a column specifically for offset. So I think Fiery and Taquito are a bit picky about map offset. So these are local offset notes, basically. Oh wait, I just saw Utami has a note on this map just saying that okay, so he used notes for like designating maps that he actually wanted to go in for. So, and sometimes he put notes on specific scores to show, okay, so he put a no mod maximum score and hidden maximum score. Yeah, sometimes for free mod you can go either hidden or no mod or hard, or like you can use multiple mods sometimes. So let's see, yeah. Oh yeah, so Fiery, for example, he put Hard Rock here, and these are his Hard Rock scores, but then in his note here, he put some of his no mod scores so that we have those in mind for reference in case maybe someone else wants to go Hard Rock and then Fiery can go no mod, so we can use these scores to strategize and predict around how well he might do on no mod. So yes, that is that. Oh, I also wanted to mention, so my feeling scores. So personally, I used the feeling scores to mark which maps I felt comfortable going in for. So Utami used these notes, and then he used the feeling scores, I guess, to show around what score he would get. But I just put a 0 if I knew I definitely wasn't going to go in for that map. And then this 2 means that, like, really worst case scenario, I can go in as a 4th if it's necessary. Actually, this map, it actually was not necessary, but yeah, 2 was like, if it's really, really needed, then I will go in and get probably a pretty bad score, but I can go in for that map. And then the 5s are the maps that I felt that I was definitely going to be one of the top 4 people to go in for that map. And speaking of which, I also want to mention that not all 8 players have the same role on the team, and I think that's actually very important to understand your role on the team. That's actually very important because you notice Erison, for example, only had scores on 3 different maps, and that is because and he had one feeling number of 0 on Noma 2. So I think everyone knew that his role on the team was to fill in for those very tapping intensive maps because he's probably one of the best players in the game when it comes to tapping. So his role was largely to play DT2, DT3, for example. Those are very tapping oriented maps, and then also Nomad 5, speed Nomad. And then Nomad 2 is the long stream tapping stamina map. So this is one of those maps that it's important to know whether or not Erison would be going in for that map. So he actually said that he ended up not being very comfortable on this map, and so just to convey that to the team, then he ended up putting a 0 in his little feeling number just to be like, yeah, there's no way I'm playing this map, right? So the rest of the maps, it's not really his job on the team to be able to get a good score on those. So I think that is something that's very important to recognize, especially if you personally are on a tournament team and you're kind of struggling, like, oh, I'm only really good at some things, or like I'm only on this team to play certain things, then like don't bother playing a lot of the maps if you know that your team is gonna do way better than you. Like, it's good to play them at least once, right, to get a feeling, but either get a feeling for the map, or maybe if you're the team captain or if you want to help strategize, then it helps to know how that map goes. I know Azer, for example, who was the captain of Team Canada for a long time, even though he typically wouldn't go in for tapping-oriented maps, he would still play through them at least once to get a feel for them and just help him understand the map pool as a whole and strategize better. So yes, that thing is that very important to understand your role on the team. And yeah, me, for example, I think so my role on the team, I think, was sort of to fill in as like a third or fourth. I don't think I was really expected to be like the number one hardcore solo carry on any given map, but I think my role was to just sort of fill in and round off the skill set balance on the team, because I did have some, I guess if we like, some maps that I would go in for on pretty much every map pool. Specifically, I think mostly the A maps. Or by my map pool, I mean the mod pool. So Nomad, Hard Rock, Double Time, DT, and Free Mod had at least one map in each of those. So yeah, being able to just fill in, I think, on maps that not many other people are super comfortable on. Yeah, I think understanding your role can help you not feel too pressured to like be like, oh, I can't play this map. And even though my team can do well, it's like, oh, if only I could play this map, we would get like 100k more points in the matches. Yeah. So yes, that is that. Oh, I also want to show on the right. Let me move this. Oh, let me see if I can show this on the screen. So it's on the very right. We had basically predicted lineups, and it was Fiery who went through and basically spelled these out. Thank you, Fiery, by the way. And just sort of giving us an idea of who we can expect to go in for each map. So, and sometimes you might have the last slot be sort of a toss-up between whoever's feeling good on the day of the match. So, like Nomad 1, for example, we had three sort of guaranteed players to go in. So Fancy Lad, Fiery, and Airyu. And then the last slot says Phil, could be anyone. Basically, whoever's aim is feeling comfortable that day. On the day of the match, it was me who ended up going in. Except we got white catted, so it didn't really matter in the match. But yeah, that is sort of how this lineup part works. I think usually around like a day or two before the match is when this lineup section would typically get filled in. And let's see, yeah, that way you have some scores to refer to, and maybe you've played through the map pool as a team and multiplayer or something like that. So yeah, sometimes, okay, so free mod, for example, so you're required to have one player go hidden and one player go hard rock. So that is why the colors are like this here. So, and that's why you have a sort of potential swap of player for these slots, which is one of the Nomad players could swap between Airyu and Fiery and things like that. And so also I will mention, even if there's like, okay, so this is not like a dead set rule, right? Because like we don't always follow this to a T. Like I think Nomad 3, for example, it was like Fiery, or okay, Fancy, Takedo, and Utami, and then I think it was between Fire and Airyu, rather than it being between Takedo and Utami to go in from one of the slots. I'm pretty sure that's right, but regardless, I think you guys sort of get the idea in that regard. So yeah, just a sort of quick run through of this lineup section. It just helps people sort of have peace of mind of like knowing exactly what maps they should be thinking about or being mentally prepared for or warming up for going into the actual match. So yeah, and then also like me, for example, I wasn't written on too many of it. Actually, so basically there were some maps that I was still practicing even if my name wasn't written here. Like, wait, actually, I think my name is actually written on most that I would be going in for. Like hidden one, for example. Actually, bad example. Okay, okay. For this pool, I think this strategy was actually, these lineups are actually really good because the maps that my name was written on, and then plus number one, I think those maps were definitely the ones that I was paying the most attention to. So yeah, but still, I would try to be mentally prepared for some maps like Fremod 1, for example. I could also potentially fill in for the Nomad slot in case someone wasn't feeling super comfortable. So fancy area, for example, right? But then if one of them was feeling like their aim was a little off that day and mine wasn't, then I would be able to go in. So still, I think knowing which maps you specifically are comfortable on, and you might be one of the top 4 on your team to go in for that map, I think is very important. So, and then also if I scroll down, by the way, there's tiebreaker, and what is fires now here? Okay, it's just offset. I don't know what that asterisk means, but yes. Anyway, that is our team sheet and sort of how it's used. So, yeah, let me play a map or two and just talk about deciding, like, in the middle of a match, like if it is a toss up between two players, like who should go in, and then also like your own strategies, or like how you personally can try to maximize your scores in an actual match. And I guess some good pointers to think about, I think, in general. So I think, okay, so this is, I think, a couple ideas in mind. Okay, one, sometimes, I guess this is probably the wrong idea to start with, but I think, wait, I just realized, I think my key overlay is not on. Uh-oh. Okay, sorry. There we go. Okay, so sometimes I think strategy revolves around, okay, this is usually in very important matches, like grand finals or something, then you probably try to not do this, but sometimes you strategize just around making sure everyone has played at least one map. Especially in a team tournament, I think it's important to, I don't know, it just kind of sucks when like you spend the entire week practicing map pool and like you don't even get to play any maps because like your team is just that good. So, and it's not even to say that you are not good at any of the maps. Like sometimes you just have like 6 people that are comfortable on any map, and it's like, okay, you just let whoever has been comfortable on the or like in the match so far, just let them keep playing, right? To just maximize your chances of getting a good team score in the match. But sometimes, okay, so especially on maps that I think, okay, so let's say it's like really early into the match and like the other team is picking maps that like they're definitely gonna win. Like there's no way we would beat their score. Sometimes I'm like, okay, you know what? Let's just have someone, even if they're not feeling super comfortable on this map, like just so that they can sort of play a map. And also, to be honest, I think early in the match, or like your first 1 or 2 maps in the actual match, I think even if you're very comfortable in tournament settings, you can get really, really nervous in like the first maps of a match. So I think some people call it like first map nerves. And yeah, I think it definitely affects a lot of people. Personally, I can definitely tell you guys that it affected a lot of people on the United States team in the Grand Finals match of 2021. So yeah, those of you who feel like, oh, I can never be a good tournament player because I just get nervous in the first map of every match, like pretty sure everyone experiences stuff like that. And I can talk a bit about some, okay, so one thing that, okay, personally I was not actually that nervous during the Grand Finals match, and I'll try to talk a bit about why I think that is. I remember one thing that I sort of told myself was that I sort of felt like everyone else was already nervous, or like I knew a lot of people were feeling a little nervous, so I was like, okay, you know what? Everyone else is already feeling nervous, so it was sort of like understanding your role on the team, but like in a really weird way. Like if it's everyone else's job to be nervous already, so yeah, there's no point in me doing something that is sort of not my role. I don't know. I think it's actually really hard to describe like why I didn't feel super nervous during the match, because okay, I don't know actually. I think I just felt very mentally prepared on the maps that I was going in for, and I think, okay, a lot of the time in the match, I was just comparing my scores to how I expected to be able to perform. Like, I think, okay, so I went in for Nomad 1, for example, right? And I had played that map like, I think 6 times or something, right? So I was pretty mentally prepared for like the different patterns and like where I might want to pay extra attention and things like that. So I think I was very like focused on my own performance rather than caring about who else might be doing well. Yeah, I think trying to just play for yourself, I guess, is for one, easier said than done, but I think it's very powerful to usually when you get nervous in a tournament, it's because you're focused too much on like comparing your performance to the other people in the lobby. But yeah, hopefully that that's like the best I can think of when it comes to like wording my personal experience with being nervous, specifically in the grand finals match. Although in the previous stages, I think I actually felt a little more nervous, and I think in those other matches where I was feeling nervous, I was thinking a lot more about like how my score would look on like, I don't know, I think I was thinking about like the tournament live stream, like the official live stream a lot, and I was like, oh, what might the commentators be saying about like my score right now, or like what like how might my score on this map make me look compared to the rest of my team on the official stream, where you can see like all 8 players. And that type of thinking is actually really scary for your nerves, because as soon as you start focusing on things like that, then it'll like overwhelm your focus as a whole, and you will just, I think, find it really hard to actually focus on the map. But personally, I've found that the more I practice a map pool, the more I'm able to just think about my score relative to how I've been doing in practice, and like just focusing on my own performance, which I think is ideal, and that's sort of how I felt in the grand finals match as well. I definitely practiced the grand finals map pool a lot more than the rest of the tournament. So yeah, those are my thoughts on that. So a couple other thoughts on like deciding between like 2 players to go in for a map. I think it's a combination of like who has been feeling most comfortable like throughout the match so far. You might have okay, let's say you played Nomad 1, it's a map, and okay, so in our team's case, let's just say, for example, that I got the top score on my team, which I did not, by the way, but just for sake of example. Then the next time an A map is played, I might be prioritized just because like I have sort of proven already that I'm able to aim pretty consistently in the actual lobby match. So stuff like that is definitely taken into consideration when strategizing. And also, I think, especially if the map might be really close, then you're gonna want to maximize like maximum score potential. So for example, so there was a map, the third hidden map, hidden 3. So I think it was kind of between me and Fiery to go in for that map, and I think he said that I was getting pretty much the same exact score every time. I was probably gonna get like 300k plus or minus like 20k, so pretty much no difference there. And let's see, one more map maybe? Yeah, one more map. Okay, let's just play this one. Okay, so I was getting pretty much 300k, and then Fiery may have also gotten 300k, but he said he had like higher maximum score potential. Like he may have gotten up to like 320 or 400k. And especially on a map, okay, on a map that has like very low maximum potential score, like a map that's really hard, then like even like 10k points can make a really big difference. Like if all 4 players on your team did like 10k points better, right, then it would make a really big difference sometimes. So honestly, usually it doesn't make that much of a difference. Usually map wins are by at least 100,000, but yeah, there was one map actually. Okay, so let me just talk about this. So in the grand finals match, there was one map that we lost by 14k points, so 14,000 points, which is not a lot at all. Score v2 I know has like very standardized numbers, but that was like pretty much 10 extra combo from somebody, right? Or like 2 less misses. So I felt kind of bad about that, but also sort of on the topic of letting everyone play a map at least once. So Erison, until the very end of the match, had not played any maps at all in the match, and I felt really bad. And I was like, oh, maybe we should pick a map so Erison can get to play, but it was, yeah, obviously, I think in a very close grand final match, you really don't want to strategize like that, but honestly, I had a really good feeling that we would end up winning Double Time 3, but we also knew that Germany might end up picking that map, so we just kind of left it alone. And Double Time 3 ended up being the very last pick of the match, and that was Erison's time to finally go in for a map. So yeah, okay, honestly, also sometimes your role on the team is like useful in theory, but then like depending on the team that you're playing against, then you might not actually have that much of a role in any specific match. So for example, the United States team played against Germany in grand finals, and Germany is really, really known for their speed prowess, things like that. So even though we had sort of a specialist speed player of our own, Erison, we still had an overall weaker lineup on a lot of these speed picks, and we needed to end up banning like 2 like tapping related maps, even though that was pretty much Erison's only job on the team. And that's kind of unlucky, but it really depends, because if we were against a different country, for example, then we may have had different bans, and then Erison would have had a much stronger or like more prevalent showing in the actual match. So yeah, I don't think people really like I'm not really saying this to address any community backlash about it or anything like that. Just sort of my own personal thoughts on strategy regarding team formation. And like, you want to fill every hole, but not every hole needs to be filled all the time, especially because you have bans, right? You have 2 bans usually in a tournament match. So yes, anyway, those are some miscellaneous strategy thoughts related to our OWC Grand Finals in particular, which, by the way, spoiler alert, we ended up winning. So that is very exciting. Yes, I think this ended up showing on one of the previous episodes, but badge came in very quickly, and OWC champion title, which, oh, also, so if you're watching this in the future, you might wonder why I didn't have the former the former OWC champion title, and that's because those actually were not a thing until this OWC just ended. So yeah, in previous episodes, whenever I showed my profile, even though I've won some World Cups in the past, I had no title at all, and that is because the former OWC champion thing did not exist until recently. So hypothetically, if I don't play the World Cup next year, or if we don't win next year, then I will still have the OWC champion title. It'll just be changed to former. But yes, anyway, with that long-winded conclusion to this episode, but hopefully you found it somewhat useful, some insights into the World Cup team for this year. And if you guys have suggestions for future episodes, or I guess even questions about this match in particular, then let me know. And if you want to watch my POV, or point of view, of the full match, I will have that video linked in the description, so check that out over on my VOD channel. But yes, if you guys are watching in the future, definitely check out my other videos on my channel. And definitely stop by my Twitch streams as well. I stream every single day. But yes, with that, we'll see you all next time.